What's as much fun as piloting a beautiful, powerful yellow sports car down a twisty country road on a winter day? Why, of course, being a subscriber to the Audrain Museum Network. Do it right now. You can't drive this Pantera like I am today, but you can watch our videos. Standing next to this Pantera, it's amazing to note how low the car is. It must have seemed like a spaceship in the Lincoln Mercury dealerships of the time, and for that reason, it would stand out, but also be a bit of a fish out of water. But these lines remain a classic of the wedge series of the Italian design of the 1970s and are as attractive today as they were when this car was released. The Ford or Ford DeTomaso Pantera was not a total failure, but it certainly wasn't a success. But what a glorious effort. I make no secret about it. I love the Pantera. I've driven a number of them here on the Audrain Museum Network. We have a video of me driving the Pantera, the 1973 Pantera from the Nick Begovich collection. Car that he bought new and has covered, I think, about 11,000 miles from new, as close as you can get to a new Pantera. I have to check that mileage. I think it's actually less than 11,000. I think that's a speedster. But in any event, it is a completely stock, as-built Pantera. The car I'm driving today is the 1972 Pantera with that very simple, original body and bumpers as designed by the great American Tom Charda for Ghia, and this has been modified, as many Panteras have, but only mildly so. In place of the 351 engine, it's got a stroker kit, so it's 408 cubic inches instead of the normal 350 horsepower that the Pantera put out stock. This is putting out well over 400, and it's also running on the wider, later, more offset Pantera GTS wheels. Other than that, it's Pantera as conceived by DeTomaso and built for Ford. And unlike some of the modifications that people have made to Panteras, this one is not quite so wild, despite the additional power on tap, that you can feel the essential balance of this great American engine and this wonderful Italian chassis. The Pantera is also among the easier mid-engine cars to drive. It, of course, has the standard offset pedals because of the front wheel arches, but the seat is fairly well aligned with it, so you don't really notice that you're sitting at an angle. After a few hours, perhaps your left hip might notice, but it's certainly something which is very livable. I've had a number of mid-engine cars, among which were my absolutely beloved Ferrari Dino 308 GT4, and I adored that car, but I think its offset was slightly more than this Pantera's, and I drove that quite a lot. One of the things that's so great about this Pantera is that it feels a lot like early Lamborghinis. The controls are very heavy, not in a bad way, but very deliberate. The steering feels very deliberate, the gear shift is deliberate, the brakes, the accelerator especially. You press down the throttle, and it's not easy, but the power comes right away. And that's due to the fact that this is not a super revvy engine. The red line here on the tach shows a 6,000 RPM. I hate to think of where 6,000 RPM would take me in this car with this engine. Certainly either to jail or to an early demise, neither of which I'm planning on. today or any other day for that matter. But it is also a tribute to the inherent engineering of the Pantera, that a country road like this, nicely winding, undulating, feels really satisfying. It's like we're on the Targa Florio. And the suspension has a surprising amount of compliance. You don't feel as if you're being jostled around like you do in a lot of newer cars. Some new Porsches and Mercedes performance cars in particular come to mind. You're much more comfortable in this car than you could ever imagine being in one of those. Of course, one of the things that makes this car so special and such an Italian crafted masterpiece is, of course, a gated shifter. You don't need a Ferrari to have a gated shifter. You can have a Pantera with a Ford behind you. It is habitual when driving a Pantera to keep an eye on the water temperature gauge because they are notorious for overheating. But all of that's been solved with various radiator and other cooling upgrades. And certainly this car is running on this nice winter day at a very comfortable temperature indeed. And of course, keeping it moving is also a key to its health. And in this nice cool weather, it's very easy and pleasant to keep it moving. One of the things that was a great stroke of genius and probably contributed to the car's demise, as has been often stated, is the fact that Ford marketed these cars through Lincoln Mercury dealers. And it makes perfect sense because it's a $10,000 exotic car and you want to market it in a place where you've got the customer for it. On the other hand, Lincoln Mercury dealers weren't the most connected with the performance market when you realize that obviously they sold Cobras in Ford dealers. Perhaps the Pantera might have been better off in a Ford dealership, but we'll never know. But nevertheless, given the personality of Alejandro DeTomaso, the story is going to come to an end with a big corporation quicker rather than later. But nonetheless, the Pantera, of course, went on to have a great, if very small, production life for a decade after Ford and DeTomaso parted company. And as he continued to develop the car, some of those developments have been incorporated by owners into their earlier cars. I personally love the stock Pantera. I think it's a very satisfying car, well balanced, I think absolutely beautiful, especially in its pre-rubber bumper form. And but as I said before, this is a really thoughtful performance upgrade that takes nothing away from the essential character of the car, and of course adds a little bit more fun under the right foot. So who can complain about that? Ah, for the day when you could get a mid-engined exotic car in an American car showroom. Oh wait, you can do that now with a Corvette. That's right, I keep forgetting.